So I've been following Leo from actualize.org as well as Frank Yang, and for a while they've been talking about a concept called absolute infinity or like infinite intelligence. And basically, I know that Leo he was talking about how everything has intelligence like a rock, but that doesn't really mean that it's thinking. It just means that the way that it's assembling itself or presenting itself has extreme amount of intelligence in its design and in its form, I guess. And he basically said that a lot of people, like scientists, they seem to be. I know this is the analogy that Frank Yang uses. He said that these people, scientists, end up spending their whole lives just studying sheet music without actually playing the music. And what he referred to that was actually doing deep mental works or like inner works. And he would say that this could be done through such things as like meditation, yoga, and psychedelic drug use. And he said that the on the psychedelic end that was like the accelerator, because like with yoga or meditation it might take like 20 years to be able to get to the level of realization, I think. And they both seem to believe that psychedelics act as like a highway or something to this new way of I guess tapping into what they would call source, I think. That's what Frank Yang would say. He's basically talking about like any sort of artist or engineer, like Einstein. Well, he was a physicist, but anyone that's basically thinking up new ideas and being creative. They're tapping into some sort of infinite energy source that's almost like a field that is. It's not really. It doesn't really have any sort of physical attributes. It's just something that is there, I think. And like this isn't exactly like a science at all. This is kind of like an idea that they've been pushing around, I think. And it resonated with me, I think, because I've always been trying to pinpoint what causes creativity or what causes genius and like what causes great ideas. And obviously, I've noticed that psychedelics seem to um, accelerate people's creativity in certain directions and cause people to almost have an outpour of creativity if they have the means to see the creativity through, which would be like talent, like music or drawing. So you have to actually have a skill set, I think, to be able to make use of the infinite intelligence that people supposedly tap into. I would. The only reason why I think I resonated with this is because I've had my own explosions in creativity, and like when I look back on it, like I realized that it was at a place where I felt that I was at no ego, I think. Because when you're creating, like you always create the best artwork when you're in a place of no ego. You're not really thinking about yourself. You're just thinking about creating something and pushing the creative envelope further, I think. And for me, I've always felt that like I have a sense of this infinite intelligence or like a connection to it, just because I've been able to be relatively creative to the point where like people recognize what I do and they appreciate it and things like that. So um, I do think that it has a lot to do with psychedelics and how it has sort of trained my brain to operate in this less ego type space to be able to create things. Like obviously we turn our ego on and off, and like when you're creating you'll maybe turn it off, but then once it's over you'll turn it back on and you'll be like, hey, I'm the greatest, whatever. But obviously that's just the cycle, I think. This was just something that I feel like they could be onto something, I think, because like I always trying to figure out what causes people to create something very complex and very beautiful. And I think that if we were to use these type of mindfulness practices properly, like especially in academic um, environments, that it would really accelerate our advancement, I think, and productivity and creation. This is also what Frank Yang said. He said that once the scientists start developing these mindful practices, that they would really advance in their technology development. And that's something I definitely do believe. I think that that's the missing key for what we need, because these people are they're not getting the full picture, I think, and a lot of people seem to be agreeing with that. And I think that this could possibly be one of the avenues to help accelerate that. And specifically, that would be psychedelic use, just because it's so immediate. You know, like with meditation, you would have to spend obviously like maybe 20 years if you're not specifically talented. Some people, I think, can. It's kind of like people who are talented at playing the piano. Like some people could reach a high level in like 10 years, and other people it takes like 20, 30 years. And there's no really reason for why, you know, people have those differences in talent, other than, you know, so someone might be smarter, but I don't really think it boils down to that. I think there's something else that other people are sort of tapping into, and I think that that idea is definitely something to think about, the absolute infinity or infinite intelligence thing. I'll link you guys to some of the conversations and some of the concepts that uh, like Leo would talk about, because he would also say that, you know, months ago he would have thought that this was completely loony, and the only reason why he believes or in this direction, I think, is because of his experiences with psychedelics that happened pretty recently. Like he was talking about 5 MEO DMT and stuff like that.